Thoughts can be tricky. And the tricky part is sometimes we don't even realize what we're telling ourselves. Hey, I'm Dr. McCleary, licensed clinical psychologist and Navy veteran, and I make mental health videos for veterans and their families. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify negative thoughts using a pretty simple tool called a thought record. A thought record is a tool that's used in a lot of different types of therapies, but it originally started with cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of just like what it sounds. It's looking at your behaviors, it's looking at your thoughts, and it's using both of those things as tools to help change your mood. Think of it this way. Our mood or our emotions are kind of hard to change. And the reason for that is we can't really directly get to them. We can't just say, hey, go be happy. Just like we can't just say, go be sad, go be scared, go be anxious. How we can affect our mood is changing how we think or changing how we appraise a situation. Okay, that's one way. So using the thoughts. The other way is changing our behaviors. So changing what we do. Adding pleasurable things into our lives. Especially if we live a life with a lot of stress in it. Makes sense, right? Well, some years ago, a guy named Aaron T Beck, who was a psychiatrist and actually recently passed away at 100, discovered this theory. Discovered that what we do and how we think affects our mood. And then over the years, developed a lot of different strategies that we can now use to help with somebody's mood. I'll spare you a whole psychology history lesson there, but I want to give credit to where credit's due. If you're getting value from this video, go ahead and hit that like button. The simplest form of a thought record has 3 different columns. You have the situation, you have the emotions, and you have the thoughts. Why this is important is sometimes it's very hard to identify what we're actually thinking in a particular moment. But most likely, we have 1 or 2 of these things already. So think about a time recently that you were experiencing some negative emotions. Anxiety, fear, sadness. We put that right here. Right under the emotions. Okay. Then what we start to think about is, well, what was going on during that time? What was the situation? What was happening during that time? Okay. Now we have a situation and we have an emotion. Now, the next thing is the thoughts. And sometimes it's hard to know in the moment what we're thinking. But the more we do this and more we practice it, the more we'll become aware of that internal dialogue. So you have an emotion, you have a situation. What you have to do is ask yourself, well, what was I thinking during that time? What was going on in my head during that time? That is incredibly important because often the negative thoughts are heavily influencing how we actually feel, sometimes despite the situation. Well, Dr. McCleary, why are the thoughts so important? Great question. The reason that identifying those negative thoughts is so important is because if we can change those negative thoughts, well, maybe we can then change the emotions. Here's the thing. A lot of times, we don't necessarily recognize the things that we're telling ourselves. And thus, it's a lot harder to change the emotions. Here's another issue about not knowing what you're actually telling yourself. The reason why is because you may not actually know why you're upset. Sometimes a situation and an emotion don't seem to fit. Maybe somebody has told you, hey, it wasn't that big of a deal. Why were you so anxious? Why were you so sad? Why were you so angry? The reason that people ask those questions is because they don't know all of what was going on. They don't know your internal dialogue. But if they did, they probably would say, well, yeah, that makes sense. If you think about it that way, or if that's what you're telling yourself. That's why this is so important. Sometimes when people look from the outside, all they see is the situation and how you behaved. Okay. Well, they can't see that internal dialogue. And sometimes, if we're not careful, we can't see it either. So, the thought record is a way of identifying those negative thoughts so that we can challenge them and hopefully change them. And that's how we can actually affect your mood. Something to think about. If this video was helpful for you, and I hope that it was, please like it or consider subscribing to my channel if you want to learn more about mental health. But more important than that, if this video was helpful for you, that means that this video can probably be helpful for another veteran or another friend or family member of a veteran. So I ask that you share it with them. Because at the end of the day, that's really what all this is about. One veteran trying to help another.